What up, friends? Soon enough we'll go nuclear, and today we're going to be reviewing Lorde's newest album, Solar Power. The pop sensation Lorde, our queen, has finally returned after a 4-year gap since her last album. Right off the bat, it's easy to tell that Lorde seems to be taking a different approach compared to her previous releases. Rather than dark and heartbroken pop and contemporary R&B sounds, she instead opts for a sort of acceptance with nature and these psychedelic folk pop indie pop sounds instead. Unfortunately, this was a change for the worse. Not only are the lyrics worse this time around, but the instrumentals are so mundane and boring that I just don't feel anything for the majority of this project. However, I do think the album starts out pretty strong with the path. The delicate guitar strums and the more natural instrumentation really establish the aesthetic of the album quite nicely, and her vocals have that sort of crooning effect that you'd want over lyrics about how she's just a normal person and shouldn't be idolized. A lot of this album actually deals with being sort of a celebrity in the limelight and how she just wants to be a normal person, do normal things, get away from all of that too. And when those drums kick in during the chorus, that's the good shit. Just a very solid progression on this track overall. Title track Solar Power also has some pretty pleasant flourishes, with the sort of Belle and Sebastian inspired verses to the great build-up that kind of just stacks and stacks until you get that final breath of fresh air at the end during the last third. Lorde's wit is also on display here, and I really like her delivery on the "I'm like a prettier Jesus and can't you reach me? No, you can't" lines. California, however, starts to decline into ambient and background music nonsense. The lo-fi drums and the muffled guitar are so low impact that I just can't bring myself to care about them. The lyrics are alright, describing her complicated history with California. However, there's no energy or expression in these vocals at all, and the instrumental just doesn't stand out in the slightest. It's not the worst offender on the record, however, it just absolutely exists. Stone at the Nail Salon is a bit more of the classic Lorde vibe, kind of akin to ballads that you would maybe find on Melodrama. I really do appreciate the lyrics, analyzing how people change over the years, "'cause all the music you loved at 16 you'll grow out of." However, it just kind of meanders around and exists, and it doesn't really do anything to set itself apart from the other low-key songs on the project. Fallen Fruit is definitely a bright spot on the record, though. The harmonies are well done, and the track progression does keep things interesting. After the chorus, especially when that fuzzy guitar kicks in, it kind of has that psychedelic edge that maybe Unknown Mortal Orchestra might try out. That's some pretty good instrumentals right there. The third verse also kind of gives off Pure Heroine vibes a little bit, so it's nice to see bits and pieces of that sound come back, even if it's just for a small moment. It's a different song compared to the rest, which actually kind of gives it a presence, which I guess is all I can really ask for with this one. Next we have Secrets from a Girl Who's Seen It All. I don't really like this one that much. Probably one of my least favorites, honestly. The vocal style on the pre-chorus and the chorus is kind of obnoxious, and it just screams like basic indie pop to me. The general instrumental feels like it's trying to recapture the more upbeat instrumentals on, say, Melodrama, but that style just doesn't work with the indie folk stuff that she's got going on this project. That spoken word outro, it's also probably one of the most pretentious and quirky things that I've heard in a while. It just ruins what little good this track had left. Dominoes is a track that I think perfectly sums up a lot of the problems that I have on this record. In it, she's trying to criticize the whole white girl that does traditional meditation aesthetic. However, she almost ends up falling into that aesthetic herself. That GoFundMe stock instrumental with that annoyingly sing-songy guitar, it's just basic. And even though this track has a pretty short length, again, it does sum up a lot of my problems with the project as a whole. Mood Ring has some similar issues to Dominoes, although she's now commentating on celebrity and influencer culture as well. I don't really hate this one because I think the instrumental is a bit more fleshed out compared to some of the other songs on the project. However, it's just so, surface level in its criticisms. I really do like the beat and vocals during the chorus, but it's just lyrically, It's just so, like, throw technology away, foam bad, live in the forest, go on the beach, take a vacation. Like, I don't know. It just seems kind of tone deaf to me, I think. I feel like the lack of depth might actually really divide people in terms of those who, like, actually relate to this shit, or the people that see it as the commentary that it's supposed to be, which is probably an unintended outcome. However, I will say that the album does end on a fairly strong note with Oceanic feeling. The isolation and steady buildup of the vocals and instrumentals really give the song an elegant vibe, and I feel like this track really captures that beachside aesthetic the best out of any song on this album. In fact, I kind of wish that more songs on the album opted for this instrumental style. The guitar is even kind of giving me like George Benson vibes a little bit, which does just add to the aesthetic even more, so that was pretty neat. There's also some pretty good flow switch-ups and vocal inflections that give the track quite a bit of personality. I really like the sense of longing in the lyrics, and the imagery really establishes the things that she's experiencing and also her concerns for the future, too. All in all, this was a pretty unfortunate misstep in Lorde's pretty solid career up until this point. Pure Heroine is one of my favorite albums of all time, and Melodrama is great too. I'm not looking for like a rehash of those records by any means. She's not the same person that she was when she wrote those, so it wouldn't turn out well. However, the things she's talking about now are either too surface level to be interesting, or almost too out of touch to even care about in the first place. Combine that with the most bland background music possible because Jack Antonoff seemingly can't separate himself from an acoustic guitar at the moment, and that's just not a recipe for success, I think. I do hope, however, that Lorde does not take this as a sign to not experiment. There is potential in this sound, it just needs to be more fleshed out and lush in its instrumentals, and the lyrics need to be expanded into more in-depth commentary on what she's actually critiquing. Lorde excels in personal anecdotes and stories, but she needs more practice if she's going to be going outside of that territory. I'm feeling a decent 4 on Solar Power. Of course, we do have to talk about the album cover in the show, and you know what? For all the shit that I gave the album, this is a great album cover. Like, perfect color combination with the warm tone of the sand in her skin. We got the fucking bright blue sky. She is double cheeked up on that beach. Like, Death Grips would be proud of this album cover. I can see MC Ride on this cover now. But, of course, those were just my thoughts on Lorde's Solar Power. What did you guys think about it? Did you guys actually like it? Do you think her experimentations worked out? Or is this just another bland indie folk project that Lorde, unfortunately, was the one that delivered to us? Let me know. And be sure to like, comment, subscribe, ring the bell if you like this video. If you want to see more from me, you know what to do, my guy. And until the next one, farewell.